In today's Feedback Friday video, we're going to get to see Silvia play, and I'm going to give her some tips that can really make a big difference in leveling up your harp playing, and they might not be what you expect. Let's go ahead and meet Silvia.
Hi, Carrie. My name is Silvia. I come from Italy.
That is so cool. I've always wanted to visit Italy. Maybe I'll have to come see you someday.
I started learning the harp about 1 year ago with a private teacher. I didn't have a lot of time to practice because of work, because I am a professional singer, but also a teacher at primary school. I'm trying to learn the canon in D. Please let me know what you think about it.
I think we can all relate to the struggle of sometimes being able to find time to practice in the midst of a busy schedule. So you are not alone in that. All right, let's go ahead and see her play. Really nice job, Silvia. It is sounding beautiful. I'm seeing so many nice things in your playing, and it's evident that you've spent a lot of time practicing this piece and really developing your technique. So what I want to share with you is a quick idea on playing those left-hand patterns smoothly, and then I'm going to share some simple but often overlooked qualities of harp playing that can really take your playing to the next level. So I noticed that a lot of your focus is spent making sure that you land accurately with left hand. So I recommend spending even more time practicing landing with all three fingers together like this. Instead of right, so that can really slow you down. So you want to make sure that you can land really accurately and confidently with all three fingers. So let me show you how to practice that. So go ahead and place 4, 2, 1 on that D, A, D. Squeeze those strings, kind of memorize what the shape feels like in your fingers and the spacing between your fingers. Then come back and see if you can land back on those notes right where you came off the string, and squeeze again. This is what we call ghosting. So you're just practicing the placement of the strings, because if you can place them, then you can play them, right? And it might take you a bit to get to the point where there isn't hesitation, but that's the goal at least. So I would just go from shape to shape with each chord and just practice making sure you can land on each one without even worrying about playing the notes. Every second or so pattern in this song, you're replacing the thumb on a ringing string. So at a later stage, I would recommend trying to delay the thumb, but for now, just focus on landing confidently with all three fingers.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, so let me dive into the 4 tips that can really take your playing to the next level. So the first one is making sure that you're sitting at the right height behind your harp. And Silvia, I will say, you can play just fine at the height that you're at. There were a few moments though where I thought maybe you could try raising the height of your bench just a little bit, just to see what that feels like. And because I come across a lot of students who are trying to do everything we teach with the hand position, but they're sitting at the wrong height. And so you could be doing everything correctly with your hand position, but if you're not sitting at the right height, it's not going to feel quite right. So it's really important to get that. So here's how to know if you're sitting at the right height. So when you place your fingers in the middle of the strings with really good position, and when you elevate your elbows to create that dip in the wrist, do your arms get tired after a while? Do you feel like you have to drop them because they get fatigued? If so, that's probably a sign that you're sitting pretty low at your harp. So for those watching, you either need to lower your harp or raise your bench to get that really good position. And a way you can tell if you're sitting too high is if when you place in the middle of the strings, you feel like you have to lean down in order to see them. It's really something you have to determine on your own, is if your arms get tired or if you feel like you're having to hunch over to see the string. So I would just recommend experimenting with that, Silvia. See how that feels. You might find that it feels a lot easier to play once you raise your bench just a little bit. So the next tip I have for you, Silvia, is to make sure that when you are playing your right hand, whether it's with your second finger or you're playing this third, You always want to make sure that your third, fourth, and pinky, whatever fingers aren't playing, that they aren't tucked into your palm, but that they're just open and relaxed. So this is a mitten analogy that I like to use. If you're wearing a winter mitten when it's really cold outside, you're gonna have one slot of fabric for your thumb, and then all these other fingers are gonna be in their own slot of fabric, and you have to like wave like this and close your hand. So it's the same thing with the harp, that you can think about it that way. So whenever second finger is placed, all your other fingers should be out and relaxed, not tucked into your palm. So go ahead and try that. Just try playing this third on D and F with 1 and 2, and see what that feels like to just let 3, 4, and 5 stay nice and relaxed. And try it with left hand as well. You can do it an octave lower if you'd like. So 1 and 2 on D and F, keep 3, 4, and your pinky relaxed. And then they should close whenever second finger closes as well. So just that simple action of letting those fingers be out and relaxed, that makes a big difference in keeping your hand really relaxed, and also it just looks really relaxed as you're playing. And you also want to make sure with your thumb that your thumb isn't closed as you're placing with second finger. If you were to play the first note of the piece, you can just let it be up like this, and then it'll close as your other fingers do. So go ahead and try that a few times and see how that feels. It should feel very open and relaxed. So the third tip I have for you is to lift out after you play. What I'm seeing right now is that you're being pretty cautious with your right hand especially. Versus difference there? I think oftentimes when we're really focused on a piece, we tend to be pretty cautious and try to make sure that we get back to the next note in time, but you can actually loosen up a little bit. You've done the hard work of being really diligent in your placing and knowing where to land, but now is the time where you can lift out between each note, because you have plenty of time to get back on the string and really let each note ring. And I know I talk about lifting off in pretty much every Feedback Friday video, but it really does make such a big difference in your playing. So if you need like a visual map to follow with your hand, I like to think of tracing the shape of half of a heart. So here's the middle, then you lift out, there's half of a heart, and then you return back to the string. So you're gonna lift out and see if you can only replace back on the string right before you need to play the next note. Trust that you know where to land once you've done that hard work of knowing exactly where to place. For those of you watching, it's never too early to practice lifting off the strings after you play. But if you are still learning how to place securely, it's more important for you to take the time to practice the placement of the notes, make sure that's really secure, and then you can implement landing later on the strings. And the fourth and final tip I have for you is to make sure that you're really squeezing the strings as you play. I've noticed with many students that they don't squeeze the strings hard enough, but it's really important to make sure that you get an even and full sound. And Silvia, I especially noticed it as you were playing these thirds in the right hand. Typically, I was only able to hear your second finger. Your thumb got kind of lost in that. So make sure that you're squeezing both strings enough that you can actually see those strings move. Lift out and then come back, squeeze the next two. And squeezing them is also going to allow them to sound exactly together. So as you play, make sure that you can hear both notes at the same time. They should both sound really even. We don't want one to overpower the other. So here's an exercise for you. Start on D and F, an octave higher than middle C, with 2 and 1. Squeeze those strings so you can see them move. Then close and lift out. And then come back on C and E right below with 2 and 1. Squeeze and lift out, and then come back on B and D with 2 and 1, squeeze and lift out. And you can go as far as you want to down the harp just to really practice that controlled movement of squeezing the strings. And I encourage you to do the same thing with left hand. Make sure that you're really squeezing each note and really projecting that sound. So you can make an exercise out of the left hand patterns as well. With 4, 2, 1, you can either go up the scale, or Silvia, you can practice just going through the left hand in this piece, making sure that you're really squeezing each string. And Silvia, you might also consider keeping your thumb a little bit higher so that there's more room for it to close and you can get more power behind it in order to squeeze. So now I'd love to hear from you. Have you considered these tips before? How might you apply them to your own playing? Let us know in the comments. And click here to watch where I gave Gail advice on her playing, but in a slightly different way.